This is Ontario Morning. Coming up in a few moments, a Bruce Peninsula-based musician's making of an instrumental album alongside an old friend virtually. We're going to find out how it all played out coming up this half hour on the program. Now, they say it's never too late to pursue your passions, and that's exactly what our next guest has been doing as of late. Colman Jones is a musician based in Bruce Peninsula, and he recently released his album Instrumentals in Motion alongside an old friend of his, Bob Moher. Now, the tune you heard off the top was a bit of their song Jazzle, and joining me now is Colman. Good morning.
Good morning, Ramraj. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to have you on the program. So tell me about how this collaboration started.
Well, I first met Bob back in the 1980s. We were working on a music project together, doing some kind of library instrumental cues, and we really clicked. But it was a kind of a chaotic time in my life. I ended up moving to England for a while, and we kind of lost touch, as can happen sometimes.
Yeah.
We got busy with our careers. But even though we were both involved in other things, we always kept our music as an integral element of our identities. And then I retired, moved up to the Bruce Peninsula, and Bob just, wrote me out of the blue. He found me on the internet. 40 years later, he remembered me, and he sent me an email suggesting, well, let's try and work on some music together with him in Toronto and me up here in Lions Head on the Bruce Peninsula.
So how did you manage that with both in different parts?
Well, we managed to use the wonder of the internet and all the skills, of course, we gathered during COVID working remotely. And it's really been a wonderful remote collaboration, trading music tracks and ideas back and forth by email and, kind of rediscovering a shared musical language, after 40 years apart.
Yeah, let's talk about the music. The album has a wide variety of styles of instrumental music. For example, here's a bit of your track, Rocking Late. Also, here's a bit of your track, Jig 77, which features musician Michel Belcourt. Even with just those two clips, you can hear the range. So what goes into creating this kind of music?
Well, you see, you've got Bob, who's a really talented musician, and he's brimming with interesting ideas that span many different genres, something that we both have in common. We both really enjoyed trying out different kinds of music. Bob made a CD a few years back, and it was amazing how diverse the songs were. So he just started sending me a bunch of little guitar and keyboard and bass recordings he'd been working on. And I found it easy to layer other instruments like electric grand piano, a bunch of legendary vintage synthesizers I've got here, and some bass pedals, even a theremin, which I used on one track. So we just started working on one track at a time, and with each new one, I decided to take a different approach in terms of the production. But we were enjoying it so much, we just kept going, and before we knew it, we had an album's worth of material.
Wow. Why was it important for you to come back to this passion?
Well, it's something that's always been in my life. I mean, I've done all sorts of different things in my life, but music has been central, the core. I tried to make a living at it when I was very young, chose, another path, but I think it's really nice to rediscover one of your passions, especially if you kind of kept it alive all these years. And Bob's just finding me on the internet and getting in touch was just, lucky happenstance, and we've been able to make it work he came up here briefly,
yeah.
So we had one in-person visit, but most of it's all just done over the internet, back and forth, sending tracks back and forth.
Yeah. What does that do for your relationship? Earlier in the program, we were talking about, adult relationships and how much work it can take. Being able to collaborate, what has that done for your connection?
Well, it's, we've really been able to revitalize, the kind of relationship we had when we were playing together back in the 1980s. And I anticipate that we'll get involved in more projects. I have still the old multi-track tape that we did back in the 1980s then I'm eager to try and get playing again and see if we can actually overdub some stuff on top of that, kind of a mix of the old and the new.
Oh, that's very cool. So when it comes to the music, we're going to play a track now. Before we get to it, I want you to explain it for me. Montparnasse, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was originally actually a solo piano track of mine that I just brought to the table. Bob sent me some stuff. I added some stuff as well. It was inspired by the years I spent actually in Paris as a child. I was walking through the neighborhoods, various neighborhoods, including Montparnasse. And Bob had the brilliant idea of echoing my piano melody with his mandolin. Ooh. And it really adds a nice touch to the piece, I think.
Yeah. It sounds like, this collaboration has brought you a lot of joy.
It has. It's been an immense joy to reconnect with someone who I remember so well, but just hadn't seen for all these years. And we've been able to really toss ideas back and forth together over the internet. It's not as good. It's certainly not as good as working together in person. There's no question about that. But it's a wonderful thing to be able to do all the same, and it's amazing what we got done, despite the distance.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing this passion of yours with us. We're going to give it a listen now. But
Great.
Colman, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's Bruce Peninsula's based musician Colman Jones. Here's a bit of his and Bob Moher's song, Montparnasse.